On our planet, severely damaged by human hands, there are not so many corners where almost pristine nature with unique inhabitants. Among them is the small island Lord Howe, a real pearl of the Pacific. It is famous for its many endemic birds and plants, the world's southernmost coral reef, and residents who jealously guard their little paradise from the effects of modern goods. Lord Howe is a small volcanic island in the shape of a boomerang. Its width is only about 2 kilometers, its length is about 10 kilometers. It is located in the Tasman Sea between Australia and New Zealand, but much closer to Australia. So from Lord Howe to Sydney about 700 kilometers. Belongs to the island of Australia and has internal self-government. You will not see large cities here. There are only villages. Due to millions of years of erosion, the area of Lord Howe has decreased to almost 14 square kilometers, with the island continues to collapse. It is predicted to be completely flooded in 200,000 years. And until this happened, here is just a real paradise. Along the west coast is a picturesque sandy lagoon with coral reefs. The south is dominated by forested hills, rising to the highest point on the island, Mount Gower, whose height is 875 meters, from which incredible views open. Both the northern and southern parts of the island are highlands, but between them is a cleared lowland with agriculture, airstrip and residential buildings. But let's plunge into the history of this incredibly beautiful place. Most likely, before the arrival of the Europeans, Lord Howe was uninhabited. In 1788, it was discovered by Lieutenant Lightbird, who sailed on a British ship transporting prisoners from Australia to Norfolk Island. The first permanent settlement appeared much later, only in June 1834. Then 3 couples arrived from New Zealand. Subsequently, the island served as an intermediate point for whaling ships and ships plying between Sydney and Norfolk. The local fauna was not afraid of humans at that time, due to which many endemic birds became extinct during that period. By the 1870s, whaling was beginning to lose popularity and the islanders began collecting and exporting kente palm seeds to the European indoor plant market. In 1884, the Australian shipping company Burns Phil began regular service, which over time led to an increase in the number of tourists. By 1932, tourism had become the second external source of income for locals. After the Second World War, the number of guests only increased thanks to seaplanes, since there was no runway yet. In 1982, the island became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Such an honorary title was provided to him by the unique nature. The fauna is represented mainly by birds. There are more than 200 species in total, some of which are endemic. Many of them are tame and calmly let people get close to them. Not all bird species encountered by the British who discovered the island have survived to this day. In particular, the flightless white sultanka died out, which was the largest land bird on Lord Howe. The reason for this was the sailors and whalers who repeatedly visited the island at the dawn of the 19th century. Another example, the local subspecies of the kakariki parrot. These birds fell prey to farmers who believed they were damaging agricultural crops. There is only one native mammal on the island, the large forest bat. There are no snakes, poisonous or stinging insects, animals or plants, making Lord Howe a safe haven. The only thing was that the islanders had to fight with the animals that came to the island from the mainland. About a century ago, rats were accidentally brought to Lord Howe. In a relatively short period of time, they managed to cause the extinction of several species of invertebrate birds and plants. In the 21st century, local authorities decided to implement a large-scale pest control project, whose cost was $15.5 million. During 2019, we managed to get rid of about 350,000 rodents. This was done with the help of traps and poison baits. The work of the specialists gave excellent results. In February 2021, journalists wrote that over the past 15 months not a single rat or mouse had been seen on the island. Gradually, nature began to recover. For example, residents again began to hear crickets at night, which used to be a great rarity. The vegetation on the island is rich and varied. But surprisingly, a large percentage of the native flora, endemic. That is, they are found only on Lord Howe. This is how 209 species of higher plants are described, from of which 70 are endemic. Palm trees are the hallmark of Lord Howe Island, perhaps the most famous of them, Eva Forster Kentier. It has become popular as a houseplant in Europe and the United States since the Victorian era. Not least thanks to Queen Victoria. Since the palm tree was quite expensive, and even was associated with the royal family, it was considered a kind of symbol of prestige. By the way, the high price for the Kentier palm has survived to this day. Certainly not the same as before, but still there are several reasons for this: strict control over the export of seeds from Lord Howe, low speed of their germination, slow growth of the palm itself. Surprisingly, this plant alone provides almost the bulk of the island's budget, second only to tourism. Today the permanent population of the island is just over 380 people. Many of them are descendants of the first settlers. For some time, untouched nature fed and watered local residents. At the dawn of the 1980s, even before ecotourism came into fashion, and the word supertourism began to sound like a curse, the islanders began to worry about the preservation of the environment. As a result, the elected council Lord Howe made an unpopular decision and decided to limit the number of guests simultaneously living on the island to 400 people. This rule is valid to this day, and there can be no more than 400 tourists at the same time on Lord Howe. This makes your stay in this unique place comfortable, and most importantly, you can enjoy nature without making your way through the crowds of tourists. But as you know, the more limited the space, the more people wants to get there. So it happened with Lord Howe Island. Housing prices and infrastructure use have inevitably increased. So a simple double room at the beginning of October 2021 will cost about $370 per day. There are other strict rules on Lord Howe to help care for the island's unique nature. Only those who really need them have cars. Air conditioners are banned, even though the climate is warm all year round. If someone needs to cut down a branch or choose paint for the house, then first you have to consult with the board. Yes, and in general, for many ordinary household issues, you need to contact the island's board. Such bureaucracy from the outside may seem almost insane, but while it is bearing fruit, there is no point in introducing indulgences. For drinking, the locals collect rainwater, and for washing and maintaining the garden, they also take it from wells. Once every 2 weeks, a barge arrives, which delivers food and other supplies from the mainland. Sometimes her expectation turns out to be very tedious, but fortunately, vegetables and fruits are grown in nurseries on the island. The residents also have edible seaweed and fish at their disposal. Processing is essential. Organic waste from homes, restaurants, and public waste bins ends up in a plant that composts 86%. There are no landfills on the island, so materials that cannot be recycled have to be sent to the mainland. With such a small number of resident population, and together with tourists, this is no more than 800 people. On the island, in principle, there is everything for a normal life: a bakery, ordinary liquor stores, a post office and a museum, a police force with 1 employee, a hospital with 4 beds. There is even a local radio station. Of course, the infrastructure for tourists was not complete. These are restaurants, apartments and luxury villas. Communications at Lord Howe have public telephones and the internet, but mobile communications are not available. Electricity is generated by diesel generators and possibly generated with solar panels, but no solar panels could be found in the photos from the settlements. There is no public transport, but since the distance to attractions is short, cycling is the main means of transportation. It is also worth noting that in addition to the main island, the group of islands Lord Howe is distinguished, which includes 28 islets and rocks. The most notable of these is the volcanic and uninhabited rock of Ball's Pyramids, located 20 kilometers southeast of Lord Howe. Ball's Pyramid is unique in that it is the tallest volcanic cliff in the sea and is 562 meters high. From some angles, it looks very unusual. Naturally, having seen such a peak, climbers from all over the world wanted to climb it, and the first successful ascent took place on February 14, 1965. The island is also known for the fact that in 2000 a stick insect was found on it, Dracocellus australis, which was previously considered extinct. But back to the main island, Lord Howe attracts tourists who want to join the almost untouched nature. This pleasure is not cheap. There are only expensive restaurants on Lord Howe. There is no affordable housing, nor are there any campsites. In addition, cruise ships are prohibited. You will have to get to the island by plane. Flights from Sydney or Brisbane take only a couple of hours. The easiest way to get to know Lord Howe is walking, and this is perhaps one of the most beautiful places for this kind. Tourism. Other activities include surfing at Blinky Beach, boat excursion to Ball's Pyramid Island, and of course diving and snorkeling. Since the seaport of Lord Howe Island, founded in 2000, is not only the most beautiful underwater world, but also the territory of the southernmost coral reef ecosystem in Australia and in the world. The Lord Howe area is definitely special. But it is not the nature that is most striking, but the way of life of the inhabitants of the island. They ride bicycles under overhanging palm trees, their children go to school barefoot, they manage to coexist with their environment in perfect harmony. At the same time, local residents with incredible zeal and perseverance are fighting to preserve their paradise, which cannot but command respect and should serve as an example to all of us. That's all. Share the video with your friends. Like and subscribe to the Mood Flow channel. See you soon.